Task Force Z issue 5, Matthew Rosenberg with Eddie Barrows on the art. So we ended last issue with the other team of villains, although seemingly they're from Amanda Waller. I think we had a lot of speculation as to exactly who they were representing. This issue makes it very clear quite quickly that they are just the new Task Force X, sent in by Waller. This scientist lady doesn't like that they're there either, and is like, could we just not have some big fight? And then, of course, the big fight happens. Because Jason almost talks them out of it, almost gets everyone to walk away, and then shit hits the fan, and sure enough, we get like heads being ripped off and all sorts. Bloom taking advantage of the situation and talking the doctor lady into helping him. So, yeah, the fun stuff, by and large. KG Beast, some of the other villains, the clones playing chess with the monkey.
Yeah.
And
I just love the phrasing of, because Harvey walks in there and he's like, we're supposed to be doing stuff and you're in here playing chess against an ape. And she says losing, right? And he's flipping out. And she goes, well, the other one goes, I'm playing. She's just watching. It was just that little bit.
Which is not a defense. It's actually saying, no, it's even worse than that. She's not even doing it.
Yeah. Which leads to that next page, which is just like, this is the type of comic that I always used to love. I am getting like Secret Six vibes, just from like, it's this kind of under the radar. I don't hear too many people talking about this book, and it's doing some like really fun things. So I get to these, like Lazarus tanks, and they're talking about, having a hard time putting someone back together.
Yeah, it's getting harder because like their bodies are getting used to the Lazarus resin,
the Lazarus
so it's not as effective. They're having to dilute it because they don't have much left.
And they said that they had to put his brain back together with a soup spoon, and eyedropper.
It took me a second to realize who this was. Obviously, it's Bane.
Me too. Right, it's Bane, and he's in the tank, and he comes up, and it like this would be such a great movie if this was like a moment. If this was like a movie or animated, him just coming up to there, and just shows how kind of desperate Harvey is to actually have this work out.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is definitely a Harvey thing and not a Two-Face. So I like the stuff that Rosenberg's doing here with, and maybe because it's Two-Face, he's my favorite, like, actual villain.
Do you know what I think I like about this in a weird way is that it's kind of like, it's just a book that's taking all the scraps of continuity and doing something with them. So it's all these characters who have died. It's these characters who have been forgotten. Even Bloom referenced that the scientist lady's actually from like towards the end of Snyder's run, which I didn't remember. But
I didn't remember either, and I'm gonna take their word from it because I'm not diving back into my collection to find those.
But fair enough. I kind of like dig that it's just like deep into continuity. So there's a big fight. There's a lot of action between all the villains, like, and almost all of them die. Right? It's just Jason, who technically can't die because he's not dead like the others, and Deadshot, who's left, and they end up being tied up by the villains, and like Waller's on a TV screen talking to them, and basically just saying like this: your time is up, and no one's coming for you. The big cliffhanger, though, of course, after Deadshot dives in front of Jason to take the shot that KG Beast fires at him.
Yeah,
which is fine because he can come back because they keep coming back.
Well, it's not just that; it's the fact that Deadshot rips his own hands off out of the cuffs to save Jason.
That's true. You're right. Yeah.
And I just like that that Jason, who had nothing but like contempt for these zombie creatures, it's coming around that these are still people, especially when they have fuller doses of the resin. And
there's that idea as well that like Deadshot knows Jason's not dead, unlike them. So like it's worth him like trying to protect him a little bit so that he doesn't have to die. The cliffhanger though is that Two-Face shows up with Mr. Freeze and Bane. And Bane's looking not as the healthiest he's ever looked. He looks a bit.
I love it. Well, and especially from Joker, the fact that they've been trying to replicate Bane makes me hope that this Bane monster, we'll eventually get another Bane down the line.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So make him as grotesque as you can. That's what I'm hoping as they do. He ends up being like a Bane blob, by the end of this. And then with Mr. Freeze, it makes me wonder: does this take place after the tower, or is this what leads him to the tower? So yeah, like you're talking about the scraps of continuity. I do like how it's playing with this, and you know, you got a Lazarus Mr. Freeze looking like a Mars Attacks alien. You know, he's going green, big ol' eyes. But yeah, it's just this book's a whole lot of fun. But yeah, it just you know, Two-Face standing there with them to save Red Hood from KGB, like, you know,
and meanwhile
flipping his coin.
Meanwhile, Bloom goes to the headquarters of Powers International and meets the original scientist lady, you know, the one who's got all the clones of came from, and basically asks for a job because there's no one else left who was doing the research on the Lazarus stuff. So,
Bloom,
you know,
this is the best. I hated Bloom when we first had him just because that arc wasn't the best, right? And he was kind of, we didn't really know what his whole deal was, like what his powers kind of were, and so I like that he kind of is still an open book in that Rosenberg has put this complete Machiavellian type character onto him like this.
It's a different spin, and he whips out Man Bat's head because he's like, "Oh, there's a few things I don't know, but I've brought the man who does," and he just whips out Man Bat's head on its own.
Yeah, he's darkly funny. I love it.
Yes, he's legitimately cracked me up throughout these 5 issues a few times. So you know. Having fun. Eddie Barrow's art still works for it. The action sequences are pretty fun, and it's got that sort of just slightly gritty vibe. Not overly gritty, just a little bit of a grit to it.
Yep.
To a pulp.
Although
grit.
the art was split up. There's 3 different artists on this one. But you can't really tell at all. It's all very.
It's pretty consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all consistent. So I would say if it was all Barrows, it's not the strongest, but knowing that it's the 3. It's this weirdly where it flips, you know, to where if it was him, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of looking rough. But the fact that it's 2 other artists with him, I think it ends up, you know, really pulling together cohesively.
Fun time. Matt, what are you giving Task Force Z?
7.5.
7.5. Yeah, I'm having I'll 7.5 too. I'll have a hard time agreeing with that. It's not the best book by any means, but it's doing a lot of fun stuff and playing with a lot of characters, so good stuff.